Christine, please. She's gonna play for you guys. She sounded good when I was over there. So y'all enjoy it.
I'm here to I'm going to tell you a little about what I do as a professional musician. But before I do that, I'd just like to start by playing you something. So, and I think you'll all recognize this. Again, my name is Emily Williams, and I play the violin, and I teach for a living. So what I do is I actually wear many hats as a professional musician. So I'm a teacher. I have my own studio. I'm also a college professor. I teach at Mississippi College. I play with the Mississippi Symphony. I gig. I do lots of other playing. I'm also the music librarian for the Mississippi Symphony. And in addition to that, I've written a couple of books, music books for my students as well as for other music teachers to teach how to teach and to use in my own teaching. So I wear many hats. I do lots of different things. And I want to tell you a little bit about all of those little things that I do. Two things that I hear most often when I tell people I'm a musician. The first is, you're so talented. And the second is, it must be really fun to do what you do. So regarding the first one, there is talent that goes into it. We all have some natural ability, and some have more natural ability than others. But what I've found over the years for myself, as well as for my students, is that what we do is actually, it's more hard work. The time and the years that you put into working really get you more to where you can be a professional musician, or to be even an amateur musician and to play in a community orchestra or do something like that. Takes years and years of practice and dedication. And the regarding whether or not it's fun, yes, it is fun. I enjoy immensely what I do. I wouldn't say though it's fun though in the traditional sense of fun where it's like, hey, let's go have a party and have fun, or we're having a game night or something like that. Again, it is lots of hard work, and it takes lots of patience, and there's a lot of concentration that goes into playing, and there's a lot of pressure that goes into what I do as well in lots of many areas. So before I go into kind of what I do now as an adult in my profession, I'd like to kind of give you an idea of how I got where I am today from my childhood, because that's really where my story starts. So I grew up in a pretty musical family. My parents sang, so I grew up singing. And when we were, for instance, singing Happy Birthday around the table, my immediate family, my extended family, they would sing harmony, and they would sing in like 4-part harmony Happy Birthday. So that was my experience growing up. And when we would get together for Thanksgiving, I have my dad's cousin plays piano, he's a music minister. And we would sing around the piano, and we would sing off of sheet music. And he would be like, okay, basses, we need to have a sectional. This is not sounding good. Let's learn your notes. Okay, so that's what would happen at Thanksgiving after we ate our turkey. So I grew up in a very musical family. I sang in my school choir, and I did sing in my church choir as well. Actually, from middle school, I sang in the adult choir at my church. So how I came to do that is kind of a funny story. My mom wanted me to sing in the adult choir, and I did not want to sing in the adult choir. And so I did, however, though, want contact lenses because I wore glasses and I didn't like my glasses. So I decided I would make a deal with her, and I said, if you buy me contact lenses, I'll sing in the adult choir. And she said, that sounds like a good deal, we'll do that. So that's how I came to sing in the adult choir from middle school, and I sang in the adult choir all the way through high school, and even when I went off to college, the church that I joined, I sang in their adult choir, and I still sing in the adult choir. I'm a member at First Baptist Clinton, and I enjoy very much singing and singing in the choir at church. So growing up, my parents sang, they didn't really play instruments. My mom took some piano lessons as a child, but her mom didn't require her, she wanted to quit, and her mom didn't require her to keep going, and she kind of always regretted that her mom didn't push her to keep going even when she wanted to quit. So I have a younger brother, and both me and my brother were required to take lessons through high school and to practice every day. And it was sort of treated like school. So no, kids don't really get a choice whether or not they want to study math. You go to school, you study math, you learn what you're supposed to learn, and whatever you do with it after you graduate is what you do with it. But you're going to learn it because it's good for you. And that's sort of how music lessons were treated. We did get to choose the instruments that we played. I started on violin the summer before I entered kindergarten. And there was a music program in my elementary school, and so I started with that, and I started taking private lessons. And my dad would practice with me every night, and my mom would practice with my brother every night for half an hour, and that was kind of our daily routine, and that's what we did all growing up until we were able to practice on our own, and then we kind of took that over for ourselves, and we had our practicing every day. And we had a weekly lesson with a teacher. And so that was my experience growing up, and kind of what allowed me to do what I'm doing today. There were times that I wanted to quit. It's very difficult to stick with something that long, and as a kid, you don't understand the idea of delayed gratification. So if it's not fun now, then you don't really want to do it, right? So my parents saying, no, it doesn't really matter whether it's fun or not. This is beneficial for you. You are going to do this. There were several years where my parents had to I went to lessons and I dutifully did what I was supposed to do, but I wasn't enjoying it, and I wasn't really getting a whole lot out of it. But I'm grateful now for the fact that my parents pushed me and said, no, you aren't allowed to quit. So when I got to high school, it was around late middle school, I decided I'm going to put some effort into this. If I'm going to have to do this, then there's no point in making it difficult on myself any longer. So I'm going to start putting some energy into my lessons and my practicing, and I got somewhere, and I got a teacher I really enjoyed working with. And so upon graduating, my teacher encouraged me to go for a music major, and I hadn't really thought about doing that. So I decided, okay, well, let me consider that. I kind of always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I just didn't know what I wanted to teach. So I decided, okay, sure, I think I could do that. I think I'd like to do that, teach music. I knew I didn't want to teach in the public schools, though. So when you go into music as a music major, you either major in education, which trains you to teach in the public schools, or you go as a performance major, which teaches you to play your instrument, but it doesn't really give you a whole lot in terms of teaching. I knew I wanted to teach, but I didn't want to teach in the public schools, so I went and I got a performance major, which is heavily focused on your playing. Along the way, I did get some instruction on violin pedagogy, which is pedagogy is how you teach. And I did a lot of research on my own. And so I did a bachelor's degree and I have a master's degree in music. And those degrees were very difficult for me. They take a lot of time. So you think about a normal college load, okay? You're taking X number of credits. So usually the credits of the class indicate how much time that class should take. So if you're taking a 2-credit class, you spend a couple of hours, you go to the class and you're supposed to spend a couple of hours a week for studying for that class. Well, as a music major, you have a lot of classes that you take for 0 credit but require a lot of work. And then lessons, you take an hour lesson a week, which is a 2-credit class. But up through I was practicing on my own in my undergrad 2 to 4 hours a day. By the time I got to be a senior, I was practicing 4 hours a day. And then during my master's degree, I was practicing 6 hours a day by myself. And so that didn't include going to orchestra rehearsals, which were a couple of hours, and small ensemble rehearsals, which was another couple of hours. And that also didn't include a full class load that music majors have to take, and all the studying that went with your academic classes. So it was a very rigorous schedule. It was very difficult, and so it's not recommended for the faint of heart. I'll say that. But I did that, so that's kind of what my college life looked like. And I graduated. I knew I wanted to teach private lessons, and I knew I wanted to play in an orchestra. So that's kind of where I eventually got. That's what I'm doing now. I do want to say that it was very difficult for me, as I said, and I credit a lot of my ability to get through and jump through the hoops and achieve what I needed to achieve in order to get my degrees, and also to get into an orchestra and to do what I do to God, because He's really the one. In my undergrad, I got to a point where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. This is very difficult. And I prayed a lot about it, and I heard God telling me very specifically, no, this is what I want you to do. I have this for you. And so I stepped out in faith, and I have to credit a lot of what I've achieved to Him, because He's really why I'm standing here in front of you today and able to do what I do and to share it with you. So, let's see. So teaching is really my number one passion. I like playing. I love playing. But teaching, I get a lot of fulfillment out of teaching. So I have a studio. It's actually quite near here. It's you guys know where New Stage Theater is? Familiar with that? It's like right catty corner to New Stage Theater in Jackson. So that's where my studio is. I have about 20 students that I teach. Teach half-an-hour lessons all the way to hour lessons. I teach students of all ages, all ability levels. And so lessons kind of work. They take one lesson a week with me, and then on the days that they don't have lesson, I ask them to practice. And for really young kids, I have parents practice with them, just like my parents practice with me. That's the best way to get a child to succeed, is to have really a parent who's dedicated to that learning process. And so I require that for my students in my studio. What I love about teaching, I love the challenge it is for me, because I have these kids, and while I have to teach them all the basic same things. Every child is different. Every child learns differently. So it's a challenge for me to find out what makes this child tick. How can I best help this child? What does this child need from me? Some children find one thing easy and another thing hard, and sometimes it's the opposite for another child. So just working with a variety of different students. Adults too. Adult learners are completely different from child learners. I love each and every stage, and just meeting a student where they are with what they need and figuring that out for myself is a challenge, and I like that. I also love seeing my students progress. When my students progress, it makes me feel like I have achieved something as a teacher. I put a lot of work and effort into my students. I love working with my students, and so when they succeed, I feel like I've succeeded, and that's a great joy and fulfillment for me. I teach at Mississippi College, and over there I do their private lessons for their violin students. So I'll teach anybody who wants to learn. I have a lot of students who have either taken lessons or maybe never taken lessons and come to college and say, I want to learn violin, so I'll teach them. I also teach if they have any majors or minors going through, I will teach them. So that's kind of what I do over there with the private lessons. I also teach string methods for Mississippi College. And string methods is a class that instrumental majors take. So those who are preparing to play in the school or teach in the schools, they have to learn, usually they're not string players, they have to learn the string instruments. So I teach them violin, viola, cello, and bass, and I give them instruction on if you have to teach somebody how to play this instrument, here are some good ways to do it. And I give them kind of just a crash course in string playing and string teaching. And so I do that for all the instrumental majors over at Mississippi College. So that's my kind of teaching side of things. As a performer, I play with the Mississippi Symphony. So we're what they call a part-time orchestra, which means it is not your full-time job. Most of the musicians also have something else that they do. So they're teachers, or sometimes they have a completely different job. They might be a nurse or something like that. So we have a 3 different concert series. We have a Bravo concert series, which is your big classical works. Okay, I think Beethoven, Brahms, Tchaikovsky, things like that. We have a pop series. Our first pop series is actually coming up. We're doing the music of ABBA, and we have Genes and Classics coming in from New York City, and they're going to be performing with us. And so we do fun, light music like that. And we also do a chamber series. So think smaller ensemble, like a Mozart orchestra, things like that. One of our most popular concerts is Mozart by Candlelight. We do an all Mozart program. We have candles all over the stage. It's really pretty. Most people love Mozart. It's a very well attended concert. It's very enjoyable. So as the musicians, what we do is 2 weeks before our first rehearsal, music comes out, and we have to learn that music. So we pick up our music, we learn our parts, and then the week before the program, or the week of the program, we usually have 2 to 4 rehearsals, depending on the program. So together as an orchestra, we only rehearse 2 to 4 times before we put on a concert. So there's a lot that goes into that, preparing for that in a short period of time. Our rehearsals are in the evenings. So, you have some people who have full-time jobs. They work a 9 to 5 job. Rehearsals are 7 to 9:30 in the evening. Then you go home and you do it all again the next day. So that's kind of what we do. I also play in the Marta Slabowska Ensemble. Marta is our concert mistress. If you know what a concert mistress is, she's the one who sits right next to the conductor, first chair, violin. She's the one who gets up and tunes the orchestra. So I'm in a small ensemble with her. She solos. There's about 6 of us. We back her up. We play a lot of light classical music. We play tangos. We play folk tunes. Fun music like that. We actually have a concert coming up not this evening, but next week on Tuesday evening over at Millsaps at 7 p.m. There's a concert that we're putting on. So if any of you are interested in that, it's a ticketed event, and you can get tickets through Millsaps, but we're going to be performing. So I also do other performances like weddings, or around Christmas time. I get hired by churches a lot. Play Easter performances, things like that. So lots of little performances out and about in the area wherever they need strings. So then lastly, I told you I was the music librarian for the symphony. So that job, I'm required to get all the music out to all the players in time for them to learn it, and then I collect all the music at the end of the program and kind of put it away. That's a very simplified version of what I do. I work closely with the conductor. He's the one who plans the programs, but then I have to order all the music if it needs to be ordered. I need to rent it if it needs to be rented. If we own it, I can pull it from the vault. We have, as string players, what we call bowing. So that's the direction that the bow is going. And if you've seen a symphony orchestra play, you'll note that all of the string players, their bows are always going the same direction, or at least they should be going the same direction. We hope they're going the same direction. That is my job, okay? The concert mistress puts in bowings for me, the principals put in bowings, and I have to copy all those bowings into all of the string parts so that each player looks at the part that they're supposed to play and knows which direction their bow is supposed to be going on every note. So it's a time-consuming job. It's a tedious job. I enjoy it. I like having a stack of music and then slowly working my way through the music and building up a stack over here and saying, here's my completed stack. That gives me satisfaction. So then it's my job to put all the folders together. I put that music all in order and make sure that it's available to for the performers to pick up. So that's kind of a little bit of what I do as the music librarian of the symphony. I told you that I write books. I have written a few books. This is the one. This is a music book that I have written. I use this one with my students. It's just a beginning book of music for children and adults. When I first became a teacher, I was looking for how am I going to teach my students? And I was looking at all the books that were available, and I couldn't find one that taught the way I wanted to teach. I had these ideas in my head, and there wasn't music in the right order and the way that I wanted to teach. So I decided, well, then I'm just going to write my own. So that's what I did, and I came up with, this is how I want to teach my students, and I put it into a book. So that's what I use with my students, and I also sell that online. So that's part of what I do. And I recently wrote this book here. This is a 5-book series. This is the first book of the series. It's called Musicality for Strings. And this is for music teachers. And it goes through, it's like that. It just goes through for teachers how to teach your students musically. A lot of beginning teachers just teach notes and rhythms to their students in the beginning, but without any sense of how does this create music. And the joy of playing our instruments is creating music. It's not taking notes off a page and just banging them out in the right order. I want students to be able to enjoy what they do with their learning, and I think musicality is important. And so I show teachers through a 5-book series how they can do that with their students. So that's a little bit about what I do. I'm going to, in a second, open it up for questions. If you guys have questions, I'm happy to answer anything that you have. But before I do that, I'd just like to close. I'm going to play you one other little piece for you. I actually do need a lot of sleep. So I usually do my music librarian job late morning, early afternoon, and then I teach from like 3 to 6:30. Then I go to orchestra rehearsals in the evening. So my mornings are usually free, so I can usually sleep in a little bit in the mornings. I do play tennis as well, so that's my hobby. Keeps me going. I need something other than music. Gets me out socializing with people and having fun, and that's my exercise. So yeah, it's a juggling act, and during the summer the symphony does not meet. So we're off during summers, and I don't teach at MC during the summer. So summer is a little bit lighter. So I still teach my private lessons. I still play gigs and things like that, but it's a little bit lighter during the summer. So, there's some seasons that are times of the year where it's really hectic and crazy, and then we get a little bit of lull sometimes. So it's a unique schedule. It's not the usual schedule of most people, but yeah, I do get sleep.
So how old, did you say how old you were when you started?
I was 4 when I started.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
My stepbrother played for APEC. He played
Oh, okay.
He did not like it.
He didn't like it?
It's like 10th grade year. He's like, I can't do this.
Did he learn under Carla Briggs? Was she there?
Miss Breeze.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. She plays in the symphony. I know her. She's over at Clinton Schools now, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's a
He
good teacher.
graduated. He's in college.
Okay.
now, But he was like, He's like, it's too hard. It's too.
Yeah, it is hard. Any other questions?
Anybody else got a question?
And do you design your own violins?
No.
So my violin is a new instrument. Actually, it was made in 2003 by a maker named Damon Gray out of Columbus, Ohio. So I didn't design the instrument at all. He finished the instrument, and I was looking for an instrument, so there was a waiting list to try out the instrument. So I got on the waiting list, tried it out, and was lucky enough that I was able to purchase it before somebody else did. This chin rest here, so the setup is unique to me. This comes off, the chin rest also comes off. So I have a very tall neck. So this is actually a special chin rest, and it comes in, and you can adjust the height. You can also adjust the angle, and it bevels around so that you can make it kind of fit what your body structure is. People who have shorter necks generally will have a chin rest that's flush with the top of the instrument, and then just a little bit of height on a shoulder rest, just enough to make it feel secure on the shoulder. So one thing that I do as a teacher is take a look at my students and their body build and how their body is made, so that I can find the best setup for them, because everybody is just a little bit different, and something that's comfortable for one person may not be comfortable for somebody else. So that's part of the process as well.
Are the violins expensive?
Yes, in general. You can get a student, so I start students out, and you can get a good student outfit for $200, $250, which includes the violin, the bow, and a case. This instrument here, my parents purchased it for me as a graduation present. It was $9,000 when they purchased it. So that the deal they made with me on that was, we'll buy you a violin, but when you get married, we're not paying anything for the wedding. And I said, that's fine.
Oh, wow. That's a deal right there, though.
Yeah, that's a deal right there. So that was that. Yeah, and the bows. So student instruments, the bow comes with the violin. Professional instruments, you buy the violin and you buy the bow separately. So you generally try out bows and instruments, and you have to try them out together, because you might have a really great bow and a really great instrument, but they don't work well together. So part of finding a combination of bow and instrument is playing them together and find out what combination works the best.
How much are those separate?
This bow is about a $5,000 bow.
Did they come with
Great pair.
It did not come with the violin. I got the bow after I got the violin.
Oh, okay. $14,000.
Yeah.
You had a good girl.
A car.
That's all right.
String instruments are some of the most expensive out of the orchestra. They can't be manufactured; they're handmade. But they do appreciate, rather than like wind and brass instruments depreciate in value. Wind instruments wear out over time. String instruments usually if they're taken care of well and played well, get better with time, and so they do appreciate and value. So they're expensive. They're an investment. Not that I plan on using it as an investment. I'm going to play it until I die, probably. But that's something you put up money for. Hopefully you have my parents. I was lucky enough to have parents who could help me out with that to set me up. So generally musicians have these expensive instruments, but they don't make a whole lot of money with them. But we enjoy what we do, and that's a large part of why we do it. I wouldn't want to ever be in a situation where my daily job, I could make a whole lot of money doing something else, but if I hated doing what I did and had to do that every single day, that wouldn't be a very good life. I think everybody deserves to have a job that they enjoy, that they can look forward to doing, and that I found that and I can make a living doing that. I feel very grateful that I have that. If any of you have children or grandchildren or anybody you know who's interested in lessons, feel free to talk to me. I'd be happy to give you information on my studio at any time. So.
Like, Mama, we want to play violin, and then once it's done, play.
Any other questions you guys have for me? Well, I really appreciate you guys letting me come out and talk to you today. I've enjoyed it. And if you think of anything you want to ask, just let me know. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And come out and hear the symphony sometime. We'd love to have you. We're always looking for people who want to come hear us. So.
Okay.